troops moved in, they didn't know the Germans were there, they were completely surprised, overwhelmed. The first thing they would have done is called for backup. The backup obviously doesn't take instant travel, they've got to wait for it. They've got to hold until they can defend themselves. Now the Shermans and the M18s are coming up the back there, the half-track lending its support to the beleaguered troops. Now the Germans are on the run. Now they're the ones who have to hide. They're the ones who have to be a bit more careful. They were in the upper hand just now, but now they are on the trailing edge. The American superior forces are now starting to beat them back. Now the Germans themselves are taking the casualties. And the American troops, pinned down, can take a little bit of a breather while their heavy armour comes in to save them. The big boom of the Sherman there. If you're an infantryman sitting behind a bush and that great big steel thing starts coming at you, making moves like that, you're a very, very worried puppy indeed. And of course, what happens is when you are taken like this, you have to regroup, you have to fall back, the troops have to get out of the danger zone, recheck their ammunition, recheck on the amount of people they've got, reformulate their plans. No matter what you plan in a battle, it's a fluid situation. Your plan goes out the window the second that the battle starts because nothing ever goes exactly according to plan. So now, like I said, the Germans are on the run. Heavy armour still coming in. The reinforcements for the American troops there still starting to worry the Germans. You can see them falling back yet again. So they're actually going back over the ground they'd already covered. They'd won that ground, now they've lost it again. Such is the way battles run. Now the half-track coming round there, and he's starting to flank them. He's got 4 50 caliber machine guns in the back of that thing. A 50 caliber machine gun bullet on its own is capable of penetrating 2 feet of concrete. So when you're in the open, that's a very formidable machine indeed. The American troops taking shelter behind it, using the vehicle itself as their hiding place. Now the Germans really on the panic. They're retreating into the rough grass. This is not a place they want to be. Now, as you can see, the German commander there, he's keeping abreast of what the situation is. Even though he's got his own half-track, he's completely outnumbered, outgunned and outmaneuvered. The Americans are overwhelming this situation, and the Germans, as you can see, falling back yet again. As the battlefield becomes littered with bodies, it's a bit of a gruesome scene, but imagine what it would have been like if this was for real. No one wants to glamorise warfare, they just want you to remember how bad it is so it never happens again. Now the word's been given, the German troops falling back even further. Now comes an American troop making a final mad dash for one of the remaining pockets of German resistance. Getting a bit stuck in there. Obviously he's quite fed up that he's been shot at all this time. So he's given that German what for? Who would blame him, really? A bit of rough and tumble's always a good fun. Oh, here we go. Another German bites the dust. Quite literally in this arena. As we go, they're jumping into foxholes. Now, some of those foxholes weren't actually dug, they were actual shell explosions. So, of course, you'd use any kind of cover that was available. And when you dive into one of those holes, you hope it's not the last place you see. Now, the reinforcements still pushing forward. They're being very cautious and very slow. Now, you may think the armour would just push straight on in and just push straight through the village, but what you have to realise is that armour is actually no good in close situations. If they get into the town, they're actually very, very vulnerable to things like Panzerschrecks and Panzerfaust, which were basically the German version of the bazooka. So these tanks have to be wary. Even though they're armoured, even though they're overgunned, they can still be taken out by one German soldier and a tube that's 2 inches long with a lump of rocket on the front of it. So they have to be careful. That's why they're not pushing straight through the village at speed. They're trying to literally drive every German soldier out of the village before they get contained within its walls. Obviously, they've still got the dragons and the steel tank traps there to contend with. they would have a battalion of engineers who would destroy those and allow them access, but of course in a situation like this the engineers have got no time to work. It's all about routing the enemy and making sure that the area is safe before they can get in there. The main objective of this was to rescue the trapped troops, which they are now doing, taking off some prisoners, tending to some wounded, but they're still pushing back the pockets of resistance from the German troops who are now back behind the earth mound. There's another punch-up going on down there. When the battle's over with bullets, it still continues with fists. Look at that. Look out, he's got a friend behind you. Oh, have some of that. There you go. Oh, that's not cricket, is it? Look at that one. I don't think you should be hitting there. That's not... Oh no. That's him gone. Well, there we are. You can get punched in some very strange places when you're in a battle. Some of them not very nice. Must protect your gentleman's area at all costs. Well, as you can see, those last valiant attempts by the Germans to do some damage to the Americans in the town there were pretty quickly and pretty brutally beaten down. And they're now moving on to the rest. The armoured vehicles now advancing. Like I said, they're advancing slowly for a reason. They can't just tear in there. Now bringing superior firepower to bear. Oh, they took a tumble. I may be wrong, but I don't think he was very popular. They're just checking him now, making sure he is indeed down and staying down. Like I said, all the while popping and banging in the background, you see the pockets of resistance still trying to put up a fight. They've lost the tank in the centre of the village. Like I said, once a tank moves into a village, it's vulnerable. And as you can see, that German Panzer moved in and was very quickly taken out. This is why the armour of the Americans, of course, is staying back, letting the troops do the major close-up fighting and just support from a distance. It looks like it's all pretty much over. It looks like they've taken the situation, but you can never be quite certain in a battle, because just when you think it's all done, it can all flare up again. Oh, well, that was a bit rash, lads, wasn't it? Like I said, they thought it was all over. It is now for them. At least they get to rest now. It's very hot out there in the sun. I'm sure they're quite glad of that, actually. Now, incredibly, there are still some Germans alive, but once again they're still being pushed back and further into the grass. And here comes another American doing the Audie Murphy run straight at the Germans. Didn't get him very far, did it? Like I said in my commentary, if you can't be seen, you can't be shot. When you stand up, you're a bit of a target. As you can see, the Germans are staying very low and very flat, which is obviously why they've survived longer. Now you may notice that when the firing is going on, it's not continuous. Well, that's because this isn't the movies. Guns have to be reloaded in real life, and you've only got 30 rounds in the biggest of the magazines on those machine guns. So what you have to do is when you've done it, you have to hide yourself, reload, and if you've run out of loaded magazines, you have to then load the magazine again.